U.S. President Donald Trump announced 50% tariffs on steel. Everyone had many questions. What would this do to the new schools we need to build in the province? What would this do to all the new housing we need to build in the city? What about the event center that's going to replace the Saddle Dome? We're building that sucker. What about all of those projects? And they all have one tie-in, and that tie-in is construction. Always love when he joins the show. President and CEO of the Calgary Construction Association, Bill Black. Welcome back to Connect, Bill.
How are you today, Sarah?
I'm probably a little bit better than you and your members, who must feel like you are on the tariff teeter-totter of fun.
I would say it's a teeter-totter running on a roller coaster.
That doesn't sound like fun at all. Bring out the gravel, Bill. Bring out the gravel.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, basically, it's a world of pay attention because it seems to change every 6 hours.
Well, and it has changed because now Doug Ford has said, well, let's have a meeting. Calmer, cooler heads shall prevail. We won't do the electricity tariffs at the second. And then Donald Trump has said, well, then if you're going to be reasonable, maybe we will look at the steel tariff. So the teeter-totter on the roller coaster continues to go at the wicked speed that it is going.
No, exactly. And, you know, everybody in industry, there's a lot of phone calls going on between different parties trying to share best practices, you know, within the city of Calgary, but also I'm at the national conference in Quebec City, and it's all the associations from over Canada, everybody's talking about best practices and how do we perhaps pull together a list of construction products that we have no Canadian equivalent for, and lobby the feds that you can't do counter tariffs on these things because we have no European, Canadian, Mexican, or other option, and we have buildings to build that people have already put tenders in on. They're committed to prices. The event center, you know, is one example. Thankfully, there are some really sophisticated teams on these projects, and they have been breaking down the building and sourcing alternative materials for weeks now, ever since this started.
Now, I knew you were in Quebec. I did not know at exactly what gathering you were at. So how many people from what industries are you surrounded with right now?
Well, we're with representatives from probably every major city in Canada. So all my colleagues from across Canada, from PEI, from BC, from Toronto, etc. All the associations are here, along with trade contractors and builders from all of these regions. And so there's a significant amount of conversation going on, people sharing what they're experiencing and how they are trying to deal with this. And I imagine a lot will be learned and put into action next week when we all get back in the trenches.
When you say you and your colleagues from around the country are talking about what products can we source within Canada and find an alternative, and what products do we have no options, are you feeling like it's weighted way more from one side to the other, or are you like, man, there's a lot of stuff that we don't have an answer for yet? What is that balance like right now, Bill?
Well, the biggest problem is how heavily integrated construction is. It's just like the automotive industry, where products cross each border more than once in the life cycle of fabrication. And so you can't just disassemble. For instance, how much does a rooftop HVAC unit cost more because it has a Chinese control circuit board in it that was tariffed going into the U.S., and then it's manufactured and clad in steel that originated in Canada, went to the U.S., and then comes back here with counter tariffs. It's a mind-boggling mystery as to how you even track that and manage it. And then if it gets stuck at the border because the customs guys don't know how to deal with it, then your supply chains start to back up. Or if U.S. tariffs make it necessary for some manufacturers here to close down temporarily, because only 25% of their business is Canadian, Canadian sources may dry up temporarily and force us to go to the U.S. So it really is a huge area of unknown. And the only way to deal with it is to pay attention. Owners and contractors and builders need to be speaking all the time. If the province wants the schools built, they need to understand that the contractors can't take that full risk without potentially going out of business. So how can we prevent pausing or cancelling projects? Because then society loses out from not just the tariffs themselves on the costs, but they lose out from vital facilities not being delivered.
Bill Black, President and CEO of the Calgary Construction Association, that is a fantastic question, which is how do we not pause or stop these projects when there are so many tariffs back and forth, when the economic uncertainty, which we hear about every single day, is in full effect? We don't know what's coming at us. So is there a plan, or truly is it just we got to talk, and one day at a time?
There are various ideas circulating, but not all parties are ready to get on board. There are owners that want to pass the risk on to contractors, and they think that they've solved the problem for themselves. The rest of you are on your own. So we have to get some folks to see sense. It really is sleeves rolled up. It's the elbows up comment that Mike Myers made at Saturday Night Live. It's fool alert, and be willing to do what it takes, and expect it to change tomorrow when the egos get offended or get in a room and maybe actually park their egos at the door. Quite honestly, this is, if anything, more intimidating than the supply chain crisis during COVID was.
Well, and here's the other part I wanted to ask you about. So there's the physical part of this. And as you described, like so mind-boggling, complicated, you can't even think about that has a Chinese component with something from the United States crossing into Canada, crossing back into the United States. The tariffs, counter tariffs is just a smashing mess. But the other part of this, though, is the people part. So what are people saying about their workers, their contractors, their employees, and the mental stress of not knowing if projects are going ahead and if they're going to have a job tomorrow? What is that weight like right now on your people?
Oh, I think it's weighing on a number of people, especially, those that may be on projects that are not quite signed off on yet. So could the project get paused, halted? We're still cancelled. It's just another stress in a province that's very busy right now. There's a lot of construction activity happening in the housing sector, in the commercial sector, and we have 175,000 new Calgarians over the last 2 years. We have homes that are in full swing and potentially being affected by this too. It's stress across the board. It's hard not to go into full-blown victim mode, but one of the secrets is to try and keep emotion out of this, because we tend to make bad decisions when we're emotional.
Facts. Yeah. You're talking to a very emotional person. I'm agreeing with you. Yes, cooler heads shall prevail.
Yes, and I'm one of the more emotional ones myself, so it's hard to try and look for the higher ground, but it is the only place where we will get sense, is if we're willing to look for the higher ground through the conversations that are needed. Don't point fingers, don't take advantage of it, find a solution. This too will pass. We've got a province to build, and it needs schools, it needs homes, it needs hospitals. And we are an industry that solves problems for a living. We've chatted about that before, and this is just another significant problem and curveball that we've been thrown. And we're just literally going to have to face up to it as it is, track it, keep on top of it, and make good decisions together.
You sound like you might also be able to do a Bill Black speech if we get on the other side of this about cooler heads shall prevail, because you're building confidence.